everyone. How are you? We're gonna make sure that this is working live before we go live. Mike just cut out us altogether. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, we don't want to be live. We're just live.
Yeah, we're just making sure that everything is working. So my debate is this, Russ. Like tonight, I know a lot of people have different political leanings, stuff like that, for what it's worth. But I don't know that there's any good choices or anything like that. But hey, Mike, you okay?
Yeah, not sure what happened there, but okay.
That was weird. All right. So make sure this is working okay live, and as we talk through this beginning.
Yeah, I will.
So here's the thing. So it's a very historic feeling to this election right now, for whatever it's worth. We're either going to have Donald Trump or we're going to have the first female president. There's something. There's going to be a bunch of different things that happen here. So in Philadelphia tonight is a big rally, right?
Yeah.
And Bruce Springsteen's playing, so that's always a thing, right? So so the debate now is what to do. Like, do I take the kids and go down there?
I don't know if I would take the kids, not because they shouldn't be at a rally,
but
just because I just don't know who else is getting into that rally that shouldn't be there.
It does feel like a big problem, possibly.
It'll be a zoo, and the one thing is that if you've noticed over the weekend, all the big celebrities are coming out for Hillary, Beyonce and Jay-Z, Katy Perry, now Bruce, and Trump had Ted Nugent grabbing his package in Michigan.
That's great.
Yeah,
that just speaks to, in terms of the entertainment area of the level of support.
Yeah, there's little question about who the entertainment world is supporting in this thing, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
And and then and most of the networks and all that stuff, and it's just I have no problem. And to me, that.
Because even I thought about going, right? Because I saw that thing on Facebook too. And before I hit the click button, my brain kicked in and said, do you really want to? And I'm thinking, yeah.
This is the thing. I mean, how often could you, if you take your kids to this, and there will be a lot of security. Obviously, there's a ton of security. I know people who live down there, and of all the, I mean, you're gonna have the Obamas both there, both the Clintons are there.
Yes.
You're gonna have Bon Jovi there, for crying out loud.
Well, there's a tie-in between Bon Jovi and the NHL. If you didn't hear it over the weekend.
Yeah.
There is. We can go there later, I guess.
We'll go there later, but
so our video and audio are in sync. Wow, I have no other words to say, but wow.
Yeah, well,
maybe we did some things. We did some back and stuff.
Our long national nightmare is over with.
Right, and for the country, the new one's about to begin. So.
Well, not to try to get overly political, but I mean, I think everybody knows I'm a Republican and I'm not supporting Trump.
You're not.
I personally am embarrassed for my side of the aisle that nominated this charlatan, and the only thing I'm hoping for is that it's close enough that they hold on to the Senate and the House to stop as much of Hillary in the next 4 years as they possibly can. Because I just think
I don't subscribe to that, and we won't get into it. But to me, it's like I don't want somebody who's just trying to stop somebody. Like I just
because then you're not doing a job.
Yeah, if something good, if there has to be some kind of looking at what actually is being proposed and what are we're just not trying to impeach our president right away.
Well, I see, I'm not for that, but I will say this: I think Hillary has made enough relationships with the other side when she was a senator that a lot more things will get done in her 4 years than happened with Obama.
I'd like to see that, and I do think I want our country to do what it does best, which is get past these things and then try to make things better.
But I have to say this, and it's funny and how media works. This race about a month ago, it was 12. They said it was 12-point lead for Hillary. It was never that much. And how the media works is that and the polls work is that they have narrowed this race down to 4 points, where it probably always was. just for the drama of it. It's like now everybody's going to be watching Tuesday night. Like, oh my God, Trump's got a chance. No, he doesn't have a chance. This is all, I think, contrived. I don't think he has a chance in hell.
He has a chance. I really do. I really think he's got a chance, and I do, because I think that when you look at the primaries and stuff like that, how he manages to win things that he's not supposed to win.
You're in the belly of the beast, Dak, because if he wins Pennsylvania,
I know. Believe me, I'm
president. If he wins Pennsylvania, he's probably going to be president. Because
that's why I'm voting 3 times tomorrow. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, of course, the whole rig thing is so ridiculous.
Oh, come on! You know that dead people in Philadelphia are going to be voting for Hillary.
It's so funny. Like they're like, all these people, and people have died since the last election. That does happen. That there are people registered that have died. That's always the case. Whether or not they actually vote or not is another case.
Well, that's the thing. Well, this is the thing. This is the thing that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, I realize there are not many Mitt Romney supporters in downtown Philadelphia, but in 2012, you know what percentage Mitt Romney got of the vote in downtown Philadelphia? 0. That's unheard of. It's impossible statistically. No, it doesn't happen. But yet,
he got some votes.
No, he got 0. I don't know if it was 0 votes, but it was 0%.
I know people.
Well, 0% doesn't mean no vote.
0% doesn't mean no votes. And to be honest, and the case is this though: Philadelphia is that Democratic. I mean, it is one of the cities that just is probably. There's a reason this rally is there tonight. I mean, this is the safest place you can put it. I mean, this is and this is why when Sarah Palin came to drop a puck at a Flyers Rangers game a few years back, it wasn't the greatest idea that Ed Snyder ever had.
Right.
But that's just what the city is, and that's what this is. And like it or hate it or whatever, that's the reality of the city. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go tonight or not. I do fear for everybody's safety. I would like my kids to see something so historic. So it's kind of like an interesting thing.
Well, I've spread out the word amongst my friends up in the greater Toronto area that if a certain person wins the election, to be searching for an apartment for me because I may move. Yeah,
no, I think that's and at the end of the day, I mean, this is my take on the whole thing. So we'll get on with it because I'm going to have to talk about it, obviously, because it's happening everywhere. It's possible to get away from right now. It feels like it reminds me of like when Hurricane Sandy was approaching. Like this whole thing of like, okay. You got to get and the markets are. I mean, that's the crazy thing. The markets are,
or like Y2K. But anyhow.
Yeah. Right. So at the end of the day, this is what I see of Trump. This is my whole thing on Trump. Okay, I don't trust him, like him. I think he's a horrible person. I think he's terrible to women. I think he's racist. I'll throw all that out the window. I will say the one thing that he's done that is probably going to go down as being good is push the bar a little bit in terms of the corruption. Right. So. And that at the end of the day, what happens is is crazy people can lead the way towards not crazy people to actually be able to open up some ground for new things. Like somebody has to go and do what he did. Now and if he had any sense in the world, he would have won this. I mean, it's like he could have easily won it, but that just shows he doesn't have any sense at all.
My argument, Ak, has been that any other of the Republican candidates would be winning this election right now because Trump is such an uncontrolled charlatan. I mean, he doesn't believe half the things that he's espousing. He says that for a fact.
No, and as a Republican, I think you actually should be happy about this because I think this is going to make the Republican Party a very powerful party that I might actually vote for in the future. It's possible that it might. Now, and that's saying something. So. To me, I mean, this is a total breakdown of something, and that usually can come some good, and that's how this country usually works. So we'll see whether that's the Libertarian Party or whatever. There's the third party candidates in this are so ridiculous that also plays it. I mean, you've got to watch John Oliver, a third party. Google that, guys. But the vice presidential candidate, okay, who's running on the Libertarian Party,
William Weld. Yeah.
I would vote for. Like,
how would you even know that name?
Right. Well,
he's a former governor of Massachusetts.
Yes, but he's also pretty damn. Like I've heard him interviewed, pretty damn intelligent. That's a guy I would vote for. And listening to him talk, and how he ends up being the vice president to this stooge that's running. It's just anyway. That's all I've got to say.
I'll tell you what. I always tell people go out and vote. I hate to vote, and I'll tell you why. I hate to vote because everybody sort of pushes things on the ballot that aren't true.
Yeah.
And you have to read up on it. Otherwise, you could fall victim and place the vote that you think is doing the right thing that you want, that you're not even doing. They put certain names to all the way to the left. They put certain names all the way to the right. If someone with bad vision goes in there, they might miss it. They might vote for an incorrect person. It's so easy to do. So all I say is look over the ballot before you go in, because there's a lot of deception going on.
Well, my ballot tomorrow morning that I will fill out will not have a vote for president. I've voted for president. I voted in every election since I turned 18. The first election was 1986.
Yeah.
88 was the first presidential election. I'm 0 for 7 in New York because every one of them is lost.
Well, you're in New York.
So it's sort of like being a Bills fan. But also, like I'm calling a tie here because I'm not voting for either one of them.
Okay.
And I won't. But
Your prerogative.
Yep.
You're allowed to do that. I mean, and I don't begrudge anyone for voting for Trump or Hillary. I really don't. I mean, I know we have lots of fans out there who watch the site that are, who watch the show that are Hillary supporters, tons of them. We have people who are Trump supporters. I've heard from them too. I'm not begrudging anybody. I just think that our country needs to be better than this. And that's at the end of the day, I hope we will be. And I think we have a better chance of being better than this with Hillary in there than we do with Trump. That I do believe. That's my personal opinion.
If you want to have a different opinion too, watch Before the Flood on either just go to YouTube and put that in. Leonardo DiCaprio put that out. It's a tremendous film. It talks about what we're doing to the planet and how sometimes when you vote, it affects that. And it's all science. And so I think people should check that out too. That's a good thing to look at before tomorrow.
As it's a good one. And Neil deGrasse Tyson says, whether you disagree or agree with what science is saying, it's true. That's a great line that I've always loved by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Whether you agree or disagree with what science is saying, it's true. And science doesn't care whether you agree with it or not. It is what it is, right? That's just the bottom line. So. All right, Mike. You can not agree with science all you want. Okay, here we go. Let's move on to the show, and let's start from there. And please take this part out, Mike.
Great, creating more work for me. Great.
Sorry. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, November 7th, 2016.
I'm I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, and I approve of this message. And you're watching HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time, and now back on our regular channel. We went rogue for a while there. Hopefully everything's working fine. We won't know, of course, until later, but we're hoping that it's working okay. It seems to be. All signs are good. If you're watching it live, you're seeing it perfectly fine. So, and we apologize for the political stuff because you come here not to talk about politics. You got enough of that everywhere else. Let's talk about hockey, and fantastic. And let's start the show with this because I think this is the right way to do it. I can't think of any better way of starting the show because in honor of our esteemed Russ Cohen. Than this. Okay, here we go. So this would be a dog dropping the puck for the face-off, which I love. I love this. This is great. I apologize.
This was a big hit in our house today.
Oh, it had to be, yeah. So this is before the Islanders game, was it?
Ducks game.
Oh, Ducks game, right? Ducks, yes, Ducks game. Sorry about that. So it's a police dog, which I love. I love the fact he's got the puck in his mouth. It's amazing.
I was going to say, when did Rosie O'Donnell start to like hockey? Just kidding.
Really? Okay. So let me
puck dropper, Ducks captain Ryan Getzlaf and Flames captain Mark Giordano.
All right, so yes, it's Getzlaf and Giordano. Puck. This is great. I love this. They're like, drop it. Hey, awesome.
I like that.
It was great. And not to correct, but it's a war dog, and so that's another thing that's close to our heart here in our family. We support the war dogs and give money to that and try and push that cause. And so I commend the Ducks. I thought that was tremendous. It made its way around, but it also showed a great use of what you can do to those kinds of celebrations and you never have to be stale and boring. And it wasn't. It was great.
Explain a war dog to everybody so we understand what
So
it is.
basically, there are dogs that are trained to serve overseas, and somebody over there will become their companion, but not all of them come back with their companions.
Right, gotcha.
If I basically, my time is up, they may send me back. They may not send the dog back,
Gotcha.
and they're bonded to the person that they're with, and so they're trying to do a little bit better with this and trying to get them going that way. But usually it's other groups that are funded that spend the money to make sure it happens. The problem is that even though the government now has sort of signed something into legislation to make sure it happens, it's only going to happen for the ones that are government regulated, not for the contractors, because there's so many contractors that do this that there's no guarantee of that. A lot of them used to get put down, to be honest.
Okay.
So I would like to see more and more get back with the person that they were working with overseas. They're heroes, just like the the people are. Same thing.
Great, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Russ. That's great stuff. Not a dog, but a cat. Alex DeBrincat has been signed to a 3-year deal with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Is the cat taller?
Yeah, that dog might be taller than Alex DeBrincat, that's for sure. So Alex DeBrincat bringing another crafty little player to that Blackhawks team. And what at the draft was the most angriest I was the entire day that the Blackhawks managed to draft this guy, because I really like Alex DeBrincat. And I think you do too, Russ.
We just interviewed Mark Kelly a couple of weeks ago from the Blackhawks, and I said nobody other than Blackhawks fans was happy about this.
Yeah.
And he laughed. Like, he was just like, yeah, we couldn't believe he was there, but he was there, so we took him.
Yeah, and I love the thing that he said. What did we like about him? Well, we like the fact that he scored 50 goals twice in a row. It's like, and I'm sorry, that was the thing that baffled me. The prejudice.
It's a great quote. It is a great quote.
It's a great quote. The prejudice against size. This guy, he scored 50 goals with Connor McDavid on the team, and then he scored 50 goals without Connor McDavid on the team. So he can score. And you know that probably next year he's gonna make the Blackhawks as a 19-year-old, and he'll probably be playing on the wing with Patrick Kane or with Jonathan Taves, and he'll score 30 goals. I mean, this was a guy who I thought was a NHLer, and it was just the fact that he was small, and that some teams are still scared of that prevented him from getting drafted in the first round.
That's why I always applaud the organizations that are sort of fearless, and they just look at the hockey player. They don't look at the size.
Yeah, you're right, and I applaud that as well. And I think that it is interesting though, and give the Hawks, give them credit for making this draft pick, but also, it is always funny to me that they fell into his lap, but this is something that winning teams can afford to do.
Sure,
and
but Arizona did it too, and
right,
they did it with Clayton Keller. And here's the thing about that. Like, I took so much heat during the year, as high as I had Clayton Keller all year, because of his size and everything. And then he goes into the NCAA program, and he's lighting it up there. It's not like, this kid is just flat out talented. Sometimes you have to just push all the other biases that you may have aside, and just look at the production and look at the player.
And this is why the Blackhawks are sort of a perpetual engine, because they trade Andrew Shaw, who they probably didn't want to spend big money on, to Montreal for 2 second-round picks, and they get Chad Chris with 1 pick, and they get DeBrincat with the other pick. So they're just keeping it going. I mean, they have those.
And Chad Chris is not the biggest guy either, but he's a tremendous defenseman, has great offensive skills. So they figure, you know what? He'll spend 4 years in college. We're okay with that.
Right.
Let's get him.
This will haunt the Canadians. This DeBrincat dude. This will be one of the. I do believe that this will be one of those trades that will go back. I mean, it's not quite skipping over Dennis Savard, but it's like it's one of those things that people might not even really remember it. Although in Montreal, I'm sure they'll be reminded of it. If DeBrincat becomes a star, they'll be reminded that he was part of this trade.
And DeBrincat's I don't think he's leading the Ontario Hockey League, but he's close. He's got 35 points in 14 games. So it's like, he's got 7. He's scoring at over a goal per game pace. So
what do we think of DeBrincat compared to Johnny Gaudreau, Russ?
All right, so he's a different kind of player because Johnny's a little bit faster and a
Yeah.
little more elusive. The
Right.
Brinkat's a little stronger and a little grittier, even though they both can score a lot. And I think that's really the difference between the two. They both still have that chip on their shoulder because everybody's told them they can't do it because they're small, and so that's where they meet in the middle. But I just think, he's just got that little bit of a grittier side, and he's not quite as elusive. So occasionally he will take a big hit.
Closer to Patrick Kane than Gaudreau?
No, nobody's close to Patrick Kane. I mean, that's the funny thing. There is nobody. The one that I've seen that's the closest to him would be Clayton Keller, and he's not Patrick Kane.
Right.
I saw DeBrincat up in St. Catharines last year at an Erie Niagara game, and I can attest to what Russ is talking about. He's very speedy. He's got a lot of skill, but for a guy 5'7", he gets hit, and that's the one thing. I mean, didn't he get hit in the World Juniors?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he can be hit, but if he's on the right line combination and if he's not put into a situation, like, he can't be a checking line guy, but he's got to be a top 6 guy. So with the Blackhawks, he's got to fit in on those top 2 lines. He's got to be in a scoring role. If he's that, then he can maybe avoid the contact and maybe go up against other teams' scoring lines. But if it's checking line versus checking line, I don't think he has the size. He's a really good player, but he's just got to be in a specific role.
Yeah.
So talking about bizarre stats, I like to have my bizarre stat today, and maybe I should do these at the end of every show and start thinking about it because I'm really into these things. Today's is astonishing, and that is the New York Rangers have scored 5 goals in 5 straight games.
Yeah.
That is something that I cannot remember happening.
Some teams are making it easier than others, and I'll give you an example, like the Boston game.
Yeah.
David Krejci literally just gave the puck away twice for 2 of those goals. Now, one of them, they're going to say, well, he was on the end of a shift or whatever. Okay, so here's the thing. As much as we're into coaching now and watching what the coaches do and everything else, when you're playing a team like the Rangers and you know that they're rolling 4 scoring lines, there's no grind line on that team. Even though JT Miller's got plenty of grind in him, he could score. You have to look at that and say, all right, we have to play these guys a different way. We can't leave out guys for more than 24 seconds or 25 seconds on a shift because it's going to be that last 5 seconds where they get a breakaway and score. And you saw that's what happened to Krejci on one of those plays. You can't leave him out there like that. He can't stay out there like that. You have to tell the players it's impossible. At some point, I'm sure things will even up a little with the Rangers and teams will figure this out. But right now, they're killing teams that still have a grind line. That's what's killing them. That's why Grabner's getting all these goals because and someone asked me yesterday, what is the secret with Grabner? Mike watched them all last year. And I said, to be honest, I think scoring those first couple that went in probably put confidence back in his head. And I think he's playing with some better players than he played with last year. And I think it's that combination that at least has made him formidable right now. And so, he's going to take advantage of, guys who are just sort of not very gifted, but teams have out there because they cycle it well and they grind it out and they're greasy.
There was no consistency with Grabner. He would play with Kadri one day, play on the 4th line the next. He'd always penalty kill, and whenever he got a shorthanded breakaway, it was like, I always said the safest lead was a 1-goal lead with Grabner on a shorthanded breakaway because he wouldn't score. The one thing though about the going away from the grind line, I think there are teams that are still doing it and can still do it effectively, but they have to be a grind line that has speed.
Right.
And the Islanders last year with Clutterbuck, with Cizikas and Matt Martin, that line was an energy line, a grind line, a hit line, but they could keep up with the pace. And I know the Leafs right now, they went away from the Brooks Likes, they went away from the Milan Mahaliks, and they're playing Ben Smith, who's got pretty decent speed, Nikita Shashnikov, and Matt Martin on their 4th line. And it's not a great line, but they cycle well, and they have speed, and they have some grit. So if you can get that, if you have a 4th line that can do that, then I think you're keeping up with the pace. If you have a 4th line that's just a slower line that's trying to impose their physical will, you can't get away with it anymore.
Well, there is one team in the NHL that has a 4th line that has over $13 million in salary cap on it right now. Is that a grinding line, or what can we say about this? Do you know? Can you name the team that has a 4th line?
That's a grind line in terms of the ownership grinding.
I'm going to say Tampa Bay.
Nope.
No.
Nope. 4th line is $13.0275 million in cap space. 3 players. One's making 5.5. One's making 4.1. The other's making 3.3.
That would be the New York Islanders.
That would be the New York Islanders. You're very.
With Andrew Ladd and the worst and second worst signings in the history of the NHL, and Nikolai Kulemin and Mikhail Gabrovsky was on LTIR. Who's the center? I can't remember the center.
Kazikis, the formerly mentioned Kazikis, who you mentioned on the fourth line for the Islanders last year. Yeah, so Kazikis is on there with Kulemin and Ladd. And what is becoming, I want to get Dan's opinion on this. Starting to see a very much of a rift between coach and GM on the island. I'm starting to sense that there's, because you're starting to see the whole Capuano and Garceau have been very uniformed in their approach for a long time, and that's part of the reason they've made it so long and they've continued to grow. But that's now becoming very obvious that Capuano is not happy with the players that were let go and the players he still has. You're starting to hear rumblings about this all over the place.
I think that's fair. I mean, I do. I think, again, I knew they couldn't lose both.
Right.
And they haven't made up the point differential. Ladd, being a good guy in the room, hasn't done enough. But they also haven't gotten enough push from their blue line either. Like, I have to look up what their defensemen are doing, but they're not scoring nearly enough for them.
Dennis Seidenberg is second on the team in scoring with 4 goals. That's how bad. I mean, that's –
Yeah, Nick Leddy needs to be a much bigger presence that way. And so does Boychuk. I mean, Boychuk's not a big offensive guy, but he used to be on the power play for Boston and used to get some points. They have to do more. They can't survive.
I mean, Andrew Ladd has got 1 assist in 12 games. I mean, nobody, maybe you could have accepted, not as much scoring from him as opposed to Opozo, but 1 assist in 12 games. Right now, it's a disastrous signing. I mean,
Leddy's got 5 points. Hamannik's got 5 points. Boychuk has 4 points. That's not enough. They've spent a lot of money on those defensemen, and I know Hamannik's out now, so you don't have to write in your emails for that. I get it. But up until that point, and also you don't have to write in your emails about the Rangers' fourth line really being Peary, Buchnevich, whatever, but AV has all these lines. They don't really have a fourth line anymore.
Right.
He puts out the hot line. So that's why I don't even think about it.
And with Hamannik out, they would normally go to Pulock, and Pulock is out with a foot injury. So, the depth of their organization's defense is being tested. I almost think, though, that the separation between the perceived separation between Snow and Capuano was maybe a little bit of self-preservation on the part of Garth, because he knows he's eventually, if this team keeps going down this road, he's going to have to throw a sacrificial lamb to people, and that's going to be Capuano. He doesn't want to go down with the ship. He wants to be the one to make the new choice of the new coach.
I mean, look, Brock Nelson stepped up. He's got 9 points.
Yeah.
Like I said, Seidenberg's third on the team, which is crazy. And then you've got Bailey with 7 and Prince with 6. And that's your top 5 in scoring. I mean, again, if you had Okposo there, he would be second in scoring. And if you had Nielsen there, he'd be 5th at the worst. And you let both those guys go, and you didn't have anything to replace them. I mean, you were hoping Andrew Ladd would, but
that's the issue. I mean, and they've got a lot of work to do, and then they've got the goaltending situation, which is completely unsettling right now. There's just and the Islanders have been making good strides every year, the last several years now. So,
it had been, yeah.
And it's not saying they can't still turn around. It's very early in the year, and I hope they do. But right now, there's just some interesting bellwethers that are really affecting things.
And of course, this is feeding into if the Islanders aren't a good organization in a year and a half, will this mean that John Tavares will? And I don't even want to go down the road because there's a lot of time between now and then. But if they take a step back this year, if they made the wrong decisions in letting Okposo go, in moving on from Franz Nielsen, depended on bringing in the young guys like Pavillier and signing Ladd, and those turn out to be bad moves, at least in the short term, then then Tavares might start to say, okay, where are we going here? Is this organization just spinning their wheels? The building is a disaster. They have some good players.
Here's another thing, though. Matt Barzal's been not playing for almost a month. He's played 2 games. I get that he had the game with the 6 penalty minutes, but if you're not willing to take some lumps in what could possibly be a lot of offense, then yes, send him back. Same with Beauvier. It's like, again, you're never going to be able to work these offensive kids in if you don't let him make mistakes.
Right. You got to, at some point, you have to let him do it. Well, goal scoring is up, as we've talked about, but the leading goal scorer right now has 8 goals in the NHL, and that would be a tie, a 3-way tie right now between, Patrick Laine, who's out tied with in the top, pushing hard to be, for that, Calder.
Yeah, he's got 8 goals. I mean, it's tremendous. I will tell you this though, and this is one important difference between, and I'm not trying to dig at you on this one, Eck. I have fun with you, but watching the Rangers-Jets game, after Laine scored in the first period of that game, he was invisible the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So he is getting points, but like Matthews is giving a better overall contribution.
Yeah, I mean, Laine right now, and I'm not saying for his career, but I'm saying right now as an 18-year-old, is a one-dimensional player. He's a scoring machine. And that's great. But if you look at Austin Matthews and the way he's playing, Austin Matthews had a five-game pointless streak. He got an assist on Saturday. His play didn't drop off. He was still playing excellent defensively, still creating plays, hitting posts, hitting crossbars. It was a lot of the scoring luck that he had in the first couple games. It disappeared for a little bit, but the all-around game, again, Matthews is playing center. He's had to play a more defensively responsible position, whereas Laine can just shoot and go down the wing. And
it's a -1. Laine is a -1 so far. I mean, that's pretty. Of all the leading scorers, the only player with a minus in the top 20, I think.
And Laine is playing with veterans, whereas Matthews is playing with 2 rookies. 2 good rookies, but 2 rookies.
I remember Matt Murray is 2-0 with a .5. Technically, he's a Calder candidate too.
I know, and I've talked about that before. Now, the other 2 guys who have 8 goals are fascinating. So the first, can we name them? You guys know who they are?
In goals?
The other 2, there are 2 other players who scored 8 goals this year.
Yeah, I knew it the other day because I was looking at it.
Yeah, and one of them was a former Ranger.
Yeah.
And he's
I saw it the other day. I'm going
to got to the Rangers via Columbus. That would be Artem Anisimov.
Right? Anisimov, right.
Got 8 goals and 9 assists for 17 points in 13 games.
Doesn't shock me.
He's 6 points ahead. It's just crazy. So, I mean, not 6 points, but he's 6 points ahead of any other leading scorers. The other player with 8 goals, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. In 5 games?
6 games.
6 games.
He's got 8 goals in 6 games. There was no question that Crosby was playing out of his mind at the World Cup, and you could see that he's reached another level. Like see this completely. But now it's just become very, very obvious that he has reached another level. I mean, it's just and he's going to be very hard to catch. Like he's going.
Are we going to talk about the 50 and 50 soon? Is that actually going to come up?
I wonder if it could. Yeah,
Well, Wayne Gretzky, when he was up last week at that McDavid-Matthews game in Toronto, said that was his favorite record, the 50 and 39. Yeah. And he doesn't think that 50 and 38 is possible. Or
50 and 38, sorry.
Yeah.
That would be
50 and 50 was the original, yeah.
Yeah, 50 and 39 was his record, so you'd have to have 50 and 39 or 50 and 38 to tie or break it. And you have to think that, I mean that's 12 games over. That's tough. I mean, that's really tough. Especially in this league where, defense is, I mean, I know that goal scoring is up, but defense is still the focus of many a coach.
Just 8 and 5 is tremendous.
Right. Can we talk about Anisimov, though? Is this ever something that we ever could have seen?
No.
That Anisimov would be the leading scorer in the NHL? I mean, not
leading scorer, no, but always a really good player. I always thought he could hit like the 60-point plateau if he just had line mates. Like he would always, in private sort of like not say it, but say it that, I really wish I had good line mates. He had them, and I don't mean good, I mean consistent.
Yeah.
There was times when he had line mates and they would leave him for like a month or 2 in New York. Those were his best scoring years. But again, too many times John Tortorella would break up the lines, and it leaves a guy like that lost. If you notice in Chicago, they've left him alone.
I know they really have, and I mean he's leading the NHL in scoring too, like in points wise. So 17.
And I wouldn't have guessed that, and I don't know if he'll do that. Yeah. But I would always have guessed 25 to 30 goals.
I mean, he'll get a decent amount of points because of who he's playing with.
Well, Patrick Bean is line mate is second, and so I mean he's got 16 points. So you're talking about a line that's just
And the funny thing is when that trade was made, at the draft or around the draft last year, the Brandon Saad trade, a lot of people thought that the star of that deal, the potential star in that deal, was Marco Dano, and it was not Anisimov. And Anisimov, he's a good player, but he was sort of like a third line center type. And because he fits in well with, he can be the defensive guy on that, the guy who hangs back on that line with Panarin and Kane, that he gets a lot of secondary points. But now he's stepping to the forefront and getting actual goals. So
he's not so much, it's funny, he's not so much a defensive guy as he is just a big guy. But he's a big guy that moves well and actually shields the puck well and controls the puck. Those are things that I've always liked in his game. So I think that's something that really does help the other two, because they have a little, Kane definitely can possess the puck. There's no question. Panarin doesn't seem to have the puck for very long.
No,
he doesn't. He doesn't. I mean, he's phenomenal to watch, Panarin. I mean, that Blackhawks team is so crazy solid. And when you look at defensively, goaltending, all the way through. I mean that.
Yeah, this is a good year for them again.
Yeah, it's a good year for them again, and you can see that when their team, when they're just winning games, they're hard on themselves too. That's a good sign of a good team. Like, they have to be killing teams or else they're not happy. Like, when you talk to people, they're like, we're okay, but we last 3 games, even though we won them, we really didn't play good hockey. And that's something that they set the bar at that level, which is really, it always tells you a sign of a team that really has their act together when they're actually caring about how well they win, not just whether.
Even Ryan Hartman's got 3 points in 9 games, and this is a guy they drafted at the bottom of the first round, who never even should have been there at the bottom of the first round. But they took him, they let him sit in Rockford for a while, and they get a good player out of it. And they do really well in the draft, and that's what's kept them afloat.
Yeah.
But they make good trades too. I got to give Stan Bowman credit. They do make good trades.
That's true. All right, so someone sent me this, and I think this is fascinating. Okay, and then I want to get on to talk a little bit about the rumor that I had today, and also about the 10-0 game, because we're going to talk about that. But
yeah, okay,
we'll get to that. But okay, so here we go. So, all right, first off, the active leading NHL players in shorthanded goals. Okay, so this list, I don't think anybody would guess this list. Like, it's crazy. Like, when you think about, these are the players in the NHL that are, have the most shorthanded goals that are playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so just take a couple names that you might think.
This is career-wise?
This is career-wise. They're still active, right? So these are players who are active, who have the most. The top guy on this has 33 shorthanded goals. Okay,
I'm going to go Bergeron as one of them.
Bergeron's not in the top 10.
Marian Hossa.
Marian Hossa, right? Marian Hossa is 33. He's the top guy. He's got 11 more than anybody else. So the second is most is 22. So that's a big gap. So Hossa's by far.
I mean, I would think Grabner might be in the top 10.
Grabner's not. Nope. These guys are. This is a fascinating list. All right. So
Anze Kopitar.
Kopitar's not on this list.
Franz Nielsen.
Franz Nielsen is on this list at number 11, but not in number 10.
Not 10. Wow.
So number 11, he's got 16 career shorthanded goals. All right. Number
Zuccarello. No, I don't know.
Number 10, Patrick Sharp. Okay. That's
okay.
Give us hints. We can work with this.
All right. All right. I'll give you hints here. Okay. So one of these guys is much maligned and is a Ranger.
Rick Nash.
Rick Nash. Right. There you go. Third right now. 21. Would you think of Rick Nash? I mean, Rick Nash scores shorthanded.
I mean, the last few years I would, because he's been used that way since Babcock used him in the Olympics. But otherwise, I probably wouldn't have thought it. I'll be honest.
So most of these guys have played over 800 games. A lot of them have played, in the top 10, everyone has played more than 800 games except for one player who's played 465 games.
Wow.
So there's one player, and he is number 5 with 19 shorthanded goals.
Hagelin?
Nope. Hagelin's not on this list. So it's number 5 with 19 shorthanded goals, 465 games. So the interesting thing is he's only scored 157 goals and has 19 shorthanded goals. Pretty staggering, I think. All right, so think about him for a second. He's
all right.
Another one of these is there's only one American on this list. He's played on 100 teams. Put it out there.
Played on 100 teams.
He's played on almost every team. He currently is on the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, so it's Matt Cullen.
Matt Cullen, yeah. He's
Yeah,
number
'cause he was always a good shorthanded player, good penalty killer.
The number 2 is another player who has bounced around a whole bunch of teams, and I don't. He only has 265 goals, but he's number 2 on the list with 22 shorthanded goals. He is. I don't even. I mean, he's played all over the place. He's played with Chicago. He's played in. Let's see, where is he? Played in Florida, Chicago, Philly. Yeah, Canadian.
Oh,
Canadian forward.
Well, he may have said it, but it didn't come through.
Chris Versteeg.
No. Versteeg is close because this is I always confused with Versteeg. And that would be Antoine Vermette. How about Antoine Vermette?
Yeah.
Being the number 2.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, completely. And that I thought, and then the other. So let me go through this: Hossa, Vermette, Nash, Plekanec, Marchand.
Platonic.
Right. Then Patrick Marleau. One of the, you don't think of Ellen Burrows. Then Eric Stahl. Then Patrick Sharp, Franz Nielsen, Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter is number 12. So this is like really, I don't know. I thought that list was really interesting.
It's an interesting one.
We have to touch on. I mean, first we have to touch on that Columbus-Montreal game.
Yeah, let's touch on the Columbus-Montreal game. I took a lot.
But we also have to touch on Vancouver-Toronto because a lot of stuff happened in that one on the weekend. But let's go with Montreal and Columbus first because I have a bone to pick with you, Ak, because I honestly understand. I know that I know that you don't think that the decision to keep Montoya in goal when that team was getting trounced was a thing. But the rules with that team are special when it comes to Carey Price. And they were not going to put in a cold Carey Price in that game and risk it. They would have fired Michel Therrien on the spot. If they were 9-0-1 and they would have brought in a cold Carey Price and he hurt his knee again, Mark Bergevin would have gone down to the locker room and fired him right on the spot. So I'm sure he talked to Al Montoya and he says, you know what, Al, you've got to take one for the team here.
You know what? Here's the weird thing about it. I saw when they showed Price, and sometimes there's not enough room on the bench for the goalie, but he was in the shadows in the tunnel, almost like hiding because he didn't want it to be a story, and it still became a story. And
actually, twice he went down after the third goal and after the seventh goal. Went down.
And I'll tell you why it's a story. Because you don't do that to a goalie, especially after the Patrick Waugh debacle. You bring in the other goalie, so you basically help your team a little bit. Even if you're mad at your team, which he clearly was, you don't. It's not everybody that broke down there that made those goals, and very few of them were Montoya. And the problem is with Montoya is, so now what if this gets in his head? You have now had a great backup that did tremendous when Price was out.
Yeah.
And now you may have tinkered with that the wrong way.
And what happened? What was the biggest problem they had last year? Why did this team go apart? Well, because they lost Carey Price, right? And when they lost Carey Price, they never had a backup goalie step up, right? So now you can't. I have watched enough.
No, I don't think it was that. I honestly think that Condon did a decent job. The problem,
but it's actually.
But he didn't give the guys confidence, Mike. I think that
he didn't.
That is the bottom line. Yeah, right. They're better in front of Price, right? So we get, and that's maybe not totally fair, but you went out and got Montoya. You started him. He's been good.
Yes.
You know that you've got somebody there who can carry you for a while. Maybe can't carry you the whole season. Maybe they still don't make the playoffs last year if they have Montoya. But the whole bottom line is that you have somebody there who can at least carry you. You have a veteran there. You have a popular player there. And you have a player who is actually well liked in that room, which is hard to do, and a solid backup. And then you go and show once again in Michel Therrien that he cannot coach when any kind of tough situation arises. He loses his ability to make any sort of decision. And and I talked to a bunch of people in Montreal about this. I talked to people on the team who were pissed off. I talked to some Flyers players the next day who were playing them on Saturday night who said they couldn't believe it. I talked to people who were just completely, and they all said that same thing. It's like there were a couple things that really stood out. One, the fact that if you're not going to play Price, you dress another backup. If you're that worried about hurting Price, you bring up somebody else for the game. You just do that, and it's perfectly fine. I've seen that done. We've all seen that done. That's okay. You have to prepare yourself. I mean, you can't sit there and say we're going to beat Columbus because Columbus sucks. We can go into Montoya, and maybe because any night in the NHL something can happen.
Right.
So if Price is your backup, you got to use him as your backup. You
right.
Cannot, that's my opinion. And you're right. I understand if he gets hurt then, but you also just let him play in the World Cup of Hockey. So let's not even to me.
Well, I think he wanted to play in the World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah,
I don't
he
know how
wanted to
much
play in this game too. Price did, he wanted to come in, and because he knows what this is like too. So he's been in, he's never.
Oh yeah, goalie always wants to stick up for the other goalie. There's no question.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot. You've got this great thing going. You're 9-0-1. You've got this great season going. You can't just throw away a game like this and allow and pretend it doesn't matter.
So would they leave Price in for 10 goals because he wants Montoya to have a day off? No.
No way. And I've seen Brodeur brought in off the bench when his goalie was getting shut down in New Jersey. I mean, I've seen this before. It's not uncommon that this happens.
Lundqvist, I've seen them all do it.
Yeah, but the fact
this is the problem with Therrien is that he coaches out of fear, and this is a coaching move because you're afraid of getting your goalie hurt, right? And you're absolutely right, Mike. That's what he was doing. You can't coach that way.
I'll go even a step further, Ak. I think he's in fear of getting fired.
He is, and I'll tell you why. You're right, and I wrote about this too. But the fact that Kirk Muller's on that, they made a big deal that Therrien fired. Therrien was the one who brought Kirk Muller in. Okay, that was like a bit, and that was a total Montreal thing. Okay, that was completely all right. It was not Therrien bringing in Kirk Muller. I will not believe that at all. Like, I refuse to believe that that's possible. This is the case of, okay, they know that Kirk Muller's coming in. He's a guy who could potentially challenge. He's a big dog, could challenge you for your, for to be the head of the pack here.
He's been in Montreal before as an assistant coach.
Popular coach. He's a smart coach. Players love him. This is the kind of situation. Okay, you bring him in. So they bring him in, and the fact that Therrien announces. And this no one disagreed with. Like, I had people who agree with you, Mike, that in Montreal. I talked to reporters in Montreal too, and no one would say this on the record because Montreal reporters just can't say anything on the record. But I had reporters in Montreal say, yeah, they agreed with everything you're saying. You can't bring him in. You can't do it. They all believed that the fact that Therrien called this a group decision was horrible. I mean, that at the end of the day, that just sells.
That was a CYA move, but
that is I'm afraid of Kirk Muller, and he also is a part of this decision. And you don't do that. That's completely.
But think of the mentality. Think of the mentality here. This team is the hottest team in the NHL. They were 9-0-1 going into this game.
Right.
And this decision caused so much of a kerfuffle with that team. I mean, they
barely beat the Flyers the next night. By the way, Price led a bunch of goals. But I'm telling you, this kind of stuff does weigh through. I mean, if Neuwirth doesn't come in and play terrible on Saturday night, the Flyers would have beaten them 4-1 or 5-1 on Saturday night with Price in goal. And then you start to wonder, okay, because it's so fragile. Hockey for momentum is so fragile.
It is. There's
ways of handling a 10-0 loss like this. It's just that this is not the way to handle it.
Yeah.
They blew it, and they bounced back. They got lucky against the Flyers. They're a great team, and they're getting great scoring from everywhere. They've got really good, solid young players.
Galchenyuk scored another invisible goal. I just figured I'd bring that up.
Oh yeah. No, and how long? How long did it take them to figure out Galchenyuk on that team? It's like. Everything that Terry,
but it still never gets talked about. I never see anything written about him. Nobody talks about him.
That's because Terry doesn't like him.
Yeah.
I'm convinced because everybody in Montreal is so afraid of losing access.
Therrien still does not trust him.
Right.
Basically, he's playing center right now because he's been told he's got to play center. He's in his fourth year in his career.
Yeah, his fourth year in his career. He
should be able to play defense enough to be able to be an effective two-way player up the middle.
And he shouldn't have to be an effective two-way player. I mean, that's the bottom line. He is your scorer.
Well,
he just has to play a respectable 200-foot
two-way game. Yes. He can't be on Civ, but he's not going to – I mean, gosh, you don't want Galchenyuk back-checking. You want Galchenyuk, leading the rush. It's just like – it's so ridiculous. And this is just – it just blew my mind that he did that. And, and I know it's people are ripping me because it's like, oh, he's 9-0-1 and everything. He just something about what Therrien does is just like the way he succeeds, going back to him winning in the playoffs with all of his fourth line guys that he wasn't giving any minutes, getting all the points. It's just he just manages to succeed despite himself sometimes because he has a really great team.
I mean, right now, Ak, you give a lot of credit to Shea Weber, who, by the way, in a 10-0 game was even. You give a lot of credit to Shea Weber. You give a lot of credit to Carey Price, obviously, because of the way he's played.
Yeah.
But the reason that team is now 10-1-1 is because those third and fourth liners have been scoring in great big bunches. And this is the same thing that happened last year. Up to like the middle or late of November, they were getting scoring from throughout their lineup. The question is, Price has got to stay healthy, and throughout the year, Galchenyuk, Pacioretty, Radulov have to continue to score. If that happens, they're a contender. If that doesn't,
here's the funny thing, right? So Galchenyuk is 11 points in 12 games. He's a +7. He's a +9 in his career. He's got 76 goals, 170 points, and like I said, never gets talked about. Never gets written
I'd love to see
about.
points per minute, because his points per minute have to be
Well,
very.
that's the thing. He's only getting 14 minutes of ice time on average.
Points per minute have to be very. And here's my prediction, because watching that game against Columbus and watching against the Flyers, it is only a matter of time. And I would pick the date if we went to. I'll say I'm going to throw it in. I'm going to write it down here. By December 15th, Radulov will be in the doghouse. It's only a matter of time for Radulov to be in the doghouse, and because he does not play Arian's game.
yeah, he plays a loose game.
Yeah, so that's not going to work. Arian.
But as long as he keeps scoring, as long as he keeps scoring there. Sorry.
Yeah, as long as he keeps scoring. But that he has to keep scoring at a really high rate to not fall into Therrien's doghouse, and he's not going to be able to do that. I mean, he's just not going to be able to keep scoring at a high rate.
No.
Player goes through droughts, and then he goes through one drought, and Therrien will put him on the fourth line.
But you know what? Already Radulov has earned enough credibility, and this isn't Alex Semin. This isn't a situation where
it's not. Definitely not.
They can't dispose him quickly and for nothing.
Well, they're not going to get rid of him. They're just gonna bury him. They're gonna. He's not like that. You wouldn't like they got rid of Semin. They're not going to cut him loose. I mean, the Radulov's a good enough player. They're going to keep him going, but.
No.
Sorry.
No, I have to. Russ, you got to unmute yourself. Now I have to talk about this game on Saturday because a lot of stuff happened. 171 penalty minutes, 157 of them in the third period, and it was all pretty much avoidable. I mean, you remember a few weeks ago the Dmitry Kulikov hit that for Buffalo in the game against Philadelphia, where Buffalo was up 3-0 and Kulikov takes a charging penalty and it turns around the game and Philadelphia ends up winning the game in overtime. The Leafs were up 5-2 in the third period. They had all the momentum. They had just scored 2 goals. Morgan Rielly takes a hit at Jannik Hansen that was it was borderline, but it was clean. It was shoulder to shoulder, and Nazem Kadri comes from behind and hits Daniel Sedinus. Sedinus scoring the goal. But by a millimeter, he avoids his 4th suspension.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, how stupid can you be to throw that type of hit when you've been suspended 3 times already and you're up by 3 goals in the third period? Even Don Cherry was saying, this is stupid.
Well, no, and this is Kadri's fatal flaw. This is where he comes. And this is, I mean, we talked.
Be careful, you're quoting Don Cherry. Just be careful.
The man on Saturday Night, okay, so this is the fatal flaw, right? This is where Kadri's got to learn how to not be that guy. Like he had a great game. He's first star against Edmonton. Everyone's just singing his praises, and he gets too believing in himself and too wrapped up, and he has to push the bar too far, and that's what players do. This is
I'll tell you what gets me on that hit. If you want to hide behind, it was shoulder to shoulder. Okay, in a technical sense, it was.
Right.
But when you're up 3 goals and you're targeting Daniel Sedin like that, come on, it's just so obvious, isn't it?
And the league had Damon Echeverrieta had to come out from the Department of Player Safety. He had to come out and say, well, blindside hits aren't illegal if it's not, if it's head, yes. If it's shoulder,
and I don't blame this on the coach. This was clearly the player decided to do this.
No, and that's the problem here is because it didn't come from somebody who like Marner or Matthews who doesn't have any experience. It came from somebody who's one of the more experienced players on the team, and it led to a third period where Alex Burrows, that rat, spears Morgan Rielly as retribution for the hit on Hansen. Derek Dorsett jumps Leo Komarov. There's a fight between Matt Martin and rookie defenseman and Ryan Miller and Frederick Anderson at the jump in. I mean, you could have had players that are valuable to your team injured because Nazem Kadri and Morgan Riley decided to take a hit on somebody when the game was basically over with.
Let me play a little devil's advocate here on this, okay? Because I hear what you're saying completely, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. When my take back from that game, because I watched the end of that game, I watched the exciting part of this game. I watched the third period of this game. I mean, where all this stuff went down, right? My take on this game was good for the Leafs for getting a game like this where the players actually have a chance to like stick up for each other. Sure. And like, you know, and in the long run, you know, I know you lose, you know, whatever the game could have been lost or what you could have, you always suffer that possibility, but this is a team that's not looking to do it right now. And they're looking to build a culture. And I thought, okay, maybe this is the kind of game. I mean, there are times when these kind of games, you know, you take the one step backwards in the win-loss column or whatever, you know, and to move forward as a team.
It is a game that may have built team camaraderie.
No question it did. I mean, when I've been in locker rooms after games like that, it's like it's a vibrant place, and people are, you know, all fired up, and there's no question that does build camaraderie. And when you don't, and that's one thing this Maple Leafs team, you know, they do feel like a bit of a bunch of parts thrown together, you know. So this is a chance for them to actually become a team.
Okay, I get that, but you know, like again, watching the Jets Ranger game, I saw Bufflin just pancake Pavel Buchnevich, and I was like, that's a good hit. I'm okay with good hits,
yeah.
But this is the one that you just see that is just like, okay, this was totally unnecessary.
Yeah,
and it was only by sheer luck. Because if you look at the hit from three or four different angles, there's one photo that it looks like he hits him in the head. And if he hits him in the shoulder, he hits him right here, which is right next to the head. So he missed
the clavicle.
Yeah, right. So he hit, you know, and
shots are illegal in the NHL.
Yeah. There you go. But I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, there's no way that Kadri could have said, okay, I'm going to hit him in the clavicle. No, he was going high, and only by the grace of God did he not get suspended for 5 or 6 games, and that's would have happened because he got suspended for a hit on Luke Glendening last April for the same damn hit. So he doesn't learn. And that's the thing. That's the wrong kind of going.
No, in the micro of Nazem Kadri's game, I totally agree with you. In the macro of the Leafs' better overall thing, maybe not the worst thing in the world that could happen to them. So that's why
he's going to have a longer leash this year because he's playing better.
Right.
Bottom line.
And and Babcock has had players on his teams before that have been like this. Okay, that you know.
Oh yeah.
And this is not, you know, there's something. Kadri is a very important player on that team right now because of what he brings to it. So now, whether or not he can control it or not, he's got to learn. You know, he's either going to go down the lane of like, okay, I'm a really good guy. I'm a really good train wreck type character, or I'm not, or I'm like Zach Ronaldo. Like he can't.
Well, he's way better than Ronaldo.
He's got too much talent to be Zach Ronaldo.
No, Zach Ronaldo has talent too, and not
to score goals though. He's got 6 goals.
No, but when he would score a goal, when he would have it, where I compare this is Ronaldo had the same thing of the better he was doing, the more likely he was to do something stupid. All right, so that's what I'm talking about when I say this.
And the thing is, the excuse for Kadri is over with. He's 26 years old. He's not a 21-year-old.
Right.
So making the stupid play is not excusable any longer.
There was one time during that game. It's so funny. I caught it. So, Zach. No, not Zach.
Zach Hyman.
No. Your defenseman. Oh God, what the hell?
Zaitsev.
No. The best defenseman on your team.
Morgan Riley.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm losing it. So Morgan Riley and right before a faceoff, Morgan Riley and Kadri get together. And Kadri, you know, whenever he's talking to anybody, he's like, "Gah." You see his mouth going 100 miles a minute. Like he's going. He doesn't just like give like a quick, like put his hand on, say something to him. He's like, "Gah." Morgan Riley, you could tell, wanted to get away from him. Like he was like, I want to hear I have to hear what you have to say. But I really want to get away. I wish I had the video of it. He's like, you're annoying the hell out of me, and I'm on your team. But I'm gonna listen to what you have to say because you're gonna tell me where you're gonna pass the puck. But I'm on the faceoff. But I got to get out of here. It was very funny. He kept trying to get away, and Kadri's like, no, wait. No. It was really silly.
Well, you know you're annoying if you're not only annoying the other team, but you're avoiding.
Oh yeah, you could tell like he's the kind of guy that must just make them bonkers. And if he does, so that's why, if he's not a good player, he's going to be gone. He's got to be a good player, or else he's going to be moved because he's going to be paid. All right, finally, I'm going to do this relatively quickly, but I will because I talked to a source yesterday about the Quebec Nordiques and or the future team in Quebec, which I shall be called the Nordiques in all likelihood, from what I was told. And it's getting close. And basically what is happening is that the NHL owners and some people I know on the board of governors really want this decision to be made before the expansion draft of the Las Vegas team. So that now you're seeing that, the expansion draft for the Las Vegas team is in June, right? Sure. Okay, so they would love to know when the Nordiques are coming in, because to them, it's like if it's coming in 2 years from now or 3 years from now, that matters to them in the expansion draft, right? So that's why there's a little bit of a push right now.
Okay.
And there's been some, the building's beautiful. There's been some change in management in Quebec. There was a push for a while that I think actually hurt them to a degree of whether or not they might relocate a team there. But I think that they won't. That doesn't seem to be happening now that Seattle actually is coming into focus as going to have an arena and going to have good ownership. So I think Seattle is where they want to move a team for a lot of reasons. One, for the fact that they want to move a team from the east to the west. So I think that Seattle makes sense to take a team out there.
Well, let's say this. I don't think the wording's right. They don't want to move a team where they're
if they're
willing to move a team.
Right, if they're going to relocate a team.
Yeah, because the NHL doesn't want to move any team.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that if they're going to relocate a team, which some people do believe they will have to do in the next couple of years.
I hope Alexander Barkov likes the Pacific Northwest.
I don't think that might not be the team, but
I know, I'm just kidding.
No, I know what you're saying, but I do think that it seems more likely, also for just the amount of money they can get from Quebec, that they would go for an expansion money out of Quebec and relocation to Seattle, and that would help balance out the conferences a little bit more. So but that's whether or not that happens or not but it does really seem, and it always has seemed this way, but it really seems more that we'll hear something sooner than later now with Quebec. And by sooner than later, I just mean by the time we get to the expansion draft. So that's within 8 months or whatever. But I think we're gonna hear a lot in the next few months. I would look to hear this picking up on TSN and stuff like that when I'm talking more about Quebec and such. I think it's a great thing. I really want a team back in Quebec. I love the rivalry. The Quebec-Montreal rivalry was amazing. I saw a couple of those games. Incredible. And there's a lot of great hockey fans in Quebec. So there's no question. And that would give us 8 teams in Canada, which would be really something. When you think about it, it's a lot of Canadian teams. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating. I think it's a great market. I've seen hockey in that market. Now I kind of wonder if they think it's going to be 2 years. They have a lot of candidates. They have more than they're probably willing to admit.
Yeah. I mean,
other cities, you mean?
Yeah, teams that could be moved there.
Teams that could be moved there, yeah.
I mean, Carolina is the most obvious one. We've talked about that before. I mean, if that ownership situation with Karmanos, I mean, supposedly the team is in debt. We haven't heard a lot about that in recent.
We've heard nothing. Not a lot. We've heard nothing.
Really.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say in recent months. I mean, we heard a lot over the summer. But the thing is like when they're not talking about it, that's when you have to worry about it, Russ. Because usually the NHL operates in secrecy, and when you don't hear about that situation, then you think, okay. I mean that now that Eric Stahl's gone, that's a franchise that really, I mean, they're young, they're building, but they're go ahead, I'm sorry.
They're going to be good. I mean that team is going to be good.
Oh, they're getting good. There's no question.
It's going to be 2 or 3 years down the road, so it might be a situation where they could move to Quebec and they would be good right away there.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think, though, like I said, I do think that we won't see a relocation to Quebec. That we'll see an expansion to Quebec. And if relocation would happen, it would be out west to Seattle.
One little bit of news here just came over the wire. Seth Jones, defenseman for Columbus, is out 3 weeks with I think it was a broken foot. So
you can't put a break for Columbus.
And Justin Falk is undergoing an MRI.
Yeah, there's just a couple big losses there for teams that don't want those losses. I mean, it was a crazy. I mean, Columbus to score 10 goals against Montreal is the strangest thing. And it was, it's fascinating how something like that happens. And it does happen in hockey, but it hasn't happened in a very long time. But I remember it happening a lot more often when I was younger, where a team would just go crazy in one game. But it doesn't seem like we've had that very much at all. And then that's the first time the Montreal Canadiens have lost 10-0 since 1944. So, that's something there.
It is something. The last thing I would say about any team is, with the Winnipeg Jets, the one thing they had that was giving the Rangers a lot of trouble was the Scheifele, Patrick Laine, Nick Ehlers size and speed. That when those guys were on the ice, if they had a little more defense, they would have been more in that game. I just have to say that. Yeah.
No, I mean, that Scheifele's been a phenom early and carried over his World Cup of Hockey stuff where he was looking amazing too. He's really just carried that over. He's been incredible. And that, Laine and he are a great combination. And you're right. I mean, size and speed is the key. It's hard to get those two things together. So, but for the Rangers aren't the biggest team. But and that you're right about that. The Penguins aren't the biggest team either. So both those teams could suffer from, but it's so hard to get a lot of big, fast players on a team. Like that's just something that no one really has a ton of them. I mean, it's not, it doesn't exist. Winnipeg, that's one of the biggest lines in the NHL here, probably. How many lines are there like
I'm just reading an article that was put out by the cranesdetroit.com, and it says Peter Camano's plans to relocate part of new business portfolio to Pontiac. So I kind of wonder if he's getting his financial ducks in a row.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very good business guy, and we won't know about it. Like Carolina will move and it'll happen like instantly. Like it won't be anything it will not leak out. He's like the NHL. The NHL is incredibly quiet about any kind of franchise stuff like this. In the Quebec thing, even, I mean, to get this guy to talk to me, he couldn't mention his name. I had to be all kinds of caveats. So just to even mention the Quebec thing, I mean, this is something that the NHL does not like out there. They don't like expansion talk at all. That's why they'll always say the same thing. They'll always say, "Oh, there's nothing new. There's nothing new. There's nothing new. Hey, we have a new team." That's
right.
That's the NHL's way of doing it. They'll tell you there's nothing new 5 seconds before the press conference where they announce a new team. So that's their way of doing it. So anyway, that's all the time we have for today, guys. If you're in the United States of America, good luck tomorrow. Voting will be on the show tomorrow again at 1:00 from your favorite polling places. No. We'll just be here ready to vote. I would have voted by then, God willing.
Not me. I'll be voting after.
You're going to vote after the show. There you go.
Yeah, because you might change my mind.
Okay. Yeah, I would change. Mike might change your mind.
Voting none of the above.
I think you and I are on the same page, Russ. But Mike might change your mind to not vote for anyone. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.